Shame on Ireland and Norway. Ireland and Norway. Two major Western nations, important nations, respected nations. I myself have had apparently ancestors from Ireland. I am Jewish, my mother is Jewish, but my father was non-Jewish, and according to DNA findings and also certain indications from our family history, I am descended from what could be called ruling houses in Ireland, possibly from the House of Niall, that ruled over Ireland for hundreds of years and were connected to all of the ruling bodies in Ireland for a long period of time. And I am interested in Irish history. I even feel a little bit of a pride in Irish achievements and Irish customs and so on. I take an interest in them, so I am even more shamed by the attitude of Ireland towards the State of Israel. Ireland is considered the most anti-Semitic, the most anti-Jewish nation in Western Europe. All of the condemnations against Israel, the calls for boycotts against Israel, both at the governmental level and at individual levels by different NGOs, different non-governmental organisations, also individual activists, pro-Palestinian activists against the State of Israel. They come from Ireland. A lot of them come from Ireland. And Ireland should be ashamed of itself because of this, because Ireland, like much of Western Europe, is basically an Israelite country. Many of the ancestors of the Irish, a good portion of the Irish, are descended from Israelites, from the lost tribes of Israel. The same applies to the British, the same applies to France, the same applies to Belgium, to Holland, to Denmark, to Norway, to Sweden and to Finland. And so Ireland is letting the cause down, it is letting us down, it is not doing what it should be doing. So to Norway. Norway is also a Western nation of highly respected in the world. In Norway it's a high standard of living, high standard of culture, it is Scandinavian. It has the characteristics of Scandinavians which people admire. Open, liberal, healthy, scientific, clear thinking and so on. But Norway has also a darker side to it. Norway too supports the Palestinians. It actually pays, the Norwegian government actually pays money, pays a pension to release prisoners from Israeli prisons who were imprisoned, who were served sentences for having killed Jews, for acts of terrorism. And Norway too, just like Ireland, is behind a lot of the governmental and semi-governmental and private initiatives taken against the State of Israel, and there's no reason for this. It is unjustified, it is not fair, and it is against the truth. It's not only is it against the truth from an abstract level of simple justice, of simple fairness, it's also against the Bible, and it is against their ancestry, because Norway too is descended from Israelites. It's not so black and white, not entirely black and white, because it could be said that Norway supports the Palestinians because actually the Israeli government wants them to do so, because the Israeli government doesn't want the Palestinian Authority to collapse. Also, even though Norway is pro-Palestinian, has been behind a lot of the peace initiatives, especially the wicked and infamous Oslo process. The Israeli government, there were many elements on the Israeli left and in Israeli society wanted Israel to give in, to surrender something of its manhood for the chance of peace, an illusory peace, but nevertheless they believed in it. So something positive could be said on this. It was the same applies to Ireland. So, but nevertheless, it doesn't hold up. It's not convincing. There's something bad about the support of Ireland and of Norway for the Palestinians and of their anti-Jewish attitudes over the subject of Israel. And they should be ashamed of it. And this is not the first time. Norway, let us touch the case of Norway. Norway, on the whole, were like the Scandinavian countries. They didn't let Jews in, but Norway was not really so independent, and it wasn't really responsible for it. Then before, by the time Second World War came around, there were some Jews a few thousand Jews in Norway, and then then came the Second World War, and Norway was conquered by the Germans, and the Norwegian resistance did give a good account of itself. It did resist, they did fight back, and the underground continued to do so, but nevertheless they also had a government in power, headed by Quisling, whose name is now synonymous with someone who betrays his own country and goes and helps the enemy. So within Norway itself there were pro-Nazi elements who helped the Nazis take the Jews away and kill them, put them to death. Also, Norway did not return property that was confiscated under the Nazis. The Jews, there's quite a few properties that belonged to Jewish families that were taken away from them by Nazi collaborators with the Nazis during World War II, and these properties were not returned, at least not in all cases, and no compensation was paid for the damage and for the evil injustice that had been done. And it's not it's not like in Germany where there was a case could be made in Germany. A lot of properties were taken away from the Jews, and the German government was afraid that if it would begin to return all of these properties and so on, it would face a civil war because there were so many people involved. So therefore the German government was prepared to pay overall compensation to those people who survived the Holocaust, and to help the state of Israel, and in that way to try and wipe the state clean. But in Norway, this was not the case. There were not that many people, and the Norwegian government was not strapped for cash. The Norwegian government could have done it, relatively speaking. We're not talking about large sums on the governmental level, even though for the individual families, the families who lost, the sums were significant. So Norway, in this case, is guilty of injustices. But Norway is not the only country. Other countries in Europe that we also consider to be Israelite did worse things. Holland, even though Holland was oppressed by the Nazis, and Holland on the whole was pro-Jewish and pro-Israeli, was for the state of Israel, helped the state of Israel after the Second World War. Even so, Holland refused to give back at least 300 children, Jewish children. These are ones that are officially known. The ones that are not officially known of are much more. And these children have been taken away by Christian families because their parents had been killed by the Nazis, and the Christian families had taken them in, brought them up as Christians, and refused to give them back, and the Dutch government justified it, did not let these children return to their families. In effect, the Dutch government after the Second War was guilty of kidnapping and taking physically Jewish families, Jewish children away from their families. And so all the other nations, so-called Israelite nations, that we actually do believe that are in part descent from Israel, that's so too. They have the things which are shameful, things which they did against the Jews and still do against the Jewish people, that are not fair, not justified, and that they will have to give an account of before God. And but this also has to be balanced out. There's a lot of positive things in these nations, and a lot of times it did help the Jewish state. To be fair, the Norwegian government helped the state of Israel get the atom bomb together with Britain. The Norwegian government did a lot of it, a lot of work. The British government did part of it, and by virtue of both of them, the state of Israel has now atomic bombs with which it can defend itself. But much more than defend itself, the mere fact that it has them is more important than anything else, because the other nations are afraid of it, or have a certain fear, one could say, a degree of trepidation which helps protect us. So this is it. But on the whole, these nations, Ireland and Norway, should be ashamed of themselves. They have done bad things, and we will see that this seems to have had biblical implications, which we find indicated from commentaries and on the Bible, an analysis of events that occurred in biblical times. In the book of Numbers, chapter 3, tells how Moses, when they were coming into the land of Israel, approaching the land of Israel, they come out of Egypt, they were in the wilderness. They were approaching the land of Israel. Moses chose 12 representatives, one representative from each tribe, to go into the land, traverse the land and bring back a report. So they did. They went into the land, they went through the land, they came back and they brought back a negative report. Or all 10 out of the 12 brought back a negative report. 2 of them, the spy from Judah and the spy from Ephraim, did not, but all of the others did. And as a result of this negative report, they rebelled. God was angry, and so they were condemned. All the people were condemned. All of that generation had to remain in the wilderness for another 40 years until the generation died out, and then their children would come into the land and inherit it. And so this is what happened, and we see that that as a result of this report, a calamity came upon the children of Israel, and we have to analyze what happened. We're giving a list of the names of the people who went into the land who were the spies, and the names of each of the spies is given, and these names, according to rabbinical the sages in the Talmud, they analyze these names in the Masechet Sota, and they analyzed these names, and they said that all of these names had negative connotations. We should remember that in Hebrew, the Hebrew language is based on word roots, and nearly every word may have a negative or a positive implication. So the rabbis said that in this case the negative implications are the ones that gave expression to themselves, and so the names of the spies indicate their negativity. But they gave 2 examples, and the 2 examples they gave, or that seem to be emphasized in these accounts, are those from the spies from Asher and the spies from Naphtali. Spy from Asher and the spy from Naphtali. It says in chapter 3 of the book of Numbers, verse 13, from the tribe of Asher, Seth the son of Michael. So in its positive sense, this name, Seth the son of Michael, could possibly be understood to mean discretion, son of who is like God. And the sages, taking as negative implications, said that it meant Seth, who contradicted, from the Hebrew word sater, to contradict the works of God. Seter, Michael, who made himself weak and compliant, from the root of Micha, weak or weakened or malleable. So too, for Numbers 3 verse 14, it says, "On the tribe of Naphtali, Naphtali the son of Vopsi." So we understand this name in its positive sense to have meant the hidden one, son of reconciliation. The sages explain this in its negative sense, the one to which was given expression as Nachbi, one who hid, from the Hebrew Habi, Nachbi, related, the words of God. Vopsi, who walked over, that is Pasa, also related or could be related to the Vopsi, Vapsi, Pasa. In Hebrew, they're written similarly, using this from the same word root. Who Pasa, trod down the will of God. So this is what we have, and on these writings, on these expressions, Fishel Ma'ail, who wrote a book, Shiftei Yisrael, that we often use analysing the characteristics of the different tribes, according to the rabbinical sources and the biblical ones. And so he enlarged on this subject, and he said that the tribes of both Asher and Naphtali, each in its own way, had the characteristics of keeping secrets and announcing the truth at the right moments, but in this case they took what were considered negative points and revealed them to the rest of Israel, and they seem to have been the instigators of the tribes. They were the ones who began the whole process of demoralization, which led the other spies to follow up on them, and resulted in the whole of Israel, a good portion of the people of Israel, rebelling, participating in an insurrection against God, against Moses, and wanting to return to Egypt, and as a result the whole of the community was punished. So we see here that these spies, representatives of these 2 tribes, of the tribes of Asher and of the tribe of Naphtali, having sinned and having caused the rest of Israel to sin, and what did they sin in? They sinned in not wanting to go into the land and conquer it. In other words, they were anti-Zionists. They were against the Zionist enterprise, because the Jews now in the Zionist state of Israel are preparing the way for the rest of the tribes. They are beginning the process. And they sinned in this matter. And therefore the whole of Israel was punished. And we may therefore understand what is happening to Norway and Ireland. Why? Because as we have shown in different articles of ours and studies of ours, in Ireland, they are descended from a good portion of the population is descended from Israelites. So too in Norway, and in both countries, the tribe of Asher was to be found. It was not necessarily dominant, but it was there. It was significant. It has historically played a role in the history of those nations. So too Naphtali, the tribe of Naphtali was dominant in Norway. The Naphthalite Huns were named Naphtali. They settled in Norway, so did other peoples who we trace as belonging to Norway. Norway has the characteristics of Naphtali, and so too Naphtali was important amongst the population of Ireland. So we have these two tribes, Asher and Naphtali, having been present to a significant degree in both Norway and Ireland, and this shows us that these two nations, Norway and Ireland, by doing shameful things, by taking a shameful, reprehensible attitude towards the state of Israel, by being against the Zionism and the return of Israel to the land of Israel, by being against it, working against it, they are repeating the offence and the sin and the trespass that the representatives of their tribes were guilty of in the time of the spies. Thank you. May God bless you. This is Yair Davidiy. I've been speaking to you from Jerusalem. I represent Brit-Am Hebrew nations, a movement that believes the lost in tribes are to be amongst Western nations, and we have proven it. We have research on it. That is what we do. We research the subject, and we also bring knowledge of our findings to the attention of the public. We reveal it, research, revelation, and reconciliation. We work towards the coming together of Judah, that is the Jewish people, with the 10 tribes of Israel. Reconciliation, research, revelation, reconciliation. They are the 3 R's of Brit-Am. May the Lord God of Israel bless all of us. Thank you.